Both Suki and Ahuru harbored a deep-seated hatred for humanity. Nizi used to feel the same way. The image of him baring his sharp teeth, his eyes wide with savage ferocity, suddenly flashed in his mind. His pupils dilated, his gaze filled with astonishment. I don't necessarily mean that, but what you said does have some merit. Stio looked up at the starlit night sky and announced that it was quite late. Let's go to sleep. We'll continue this conversation tomorrow at dawn. We'll be on our way again. Everyone had settled down by the warm fire, preparing to fall asleep. Only he remained silently seated, hugging his knees tightly. Suki slowly approached, startling Stio. Why aren't you asleep yet? He softly replied, I'm just not sleepy. And what about you, Suki? The small cat asked, his tone laced with sarcasm. How can I possibly sleep in such a desolate place? Sugo tried to reassure him. This mountain isn't dangerous at all. Suki ignored him and turned away. There's no place truly safe in this world. The black cat sighed, offering a word of caution. I know I talk a lot, but you need to stop blindly trusting others. Of course, with me around, there's no need to worry. I'll keep an eye on them for you. He suddenly called out Sugi's name, and a voice responded immediately. An image flashed in his mind. A majestic dragon towering over the earth. Shu spoke. I heard that Sahane utterly despises humanity, but for some reason, he remains in this mortal realm. Sugi flicked his tail, answering. Just like that guy Kai said, he might be staying to push this world to the brink of destruction. He reached out and stroked the cat's head, but Sugi calmly countered. Why do you assume there's any other reason? Shu bowed his head sadly, thinking to himself, that's what troubles me. Countless questions kept swirling in his mind. What happened to Du Rayon? Is Du Rayon really dead? Or did she betray Su Hanan and leave silently? The final question lingered. As the image of a blond man appeared, he remained silent before a girl's questioning. Is Su Hanan just a mad golden dragon? Estio was bewildered, racking his brain, but unable to understand. I can't understand why he hates humanity so much. Suki, resting comfortably with her head on his lap, teased playfully. Maybe you'll never find the answer, unless you can read his mind. As soon as she finished speaking, the cat abruptly sat up, stammering, wait, he didn't deny it, firmly stating, no matter what, I have to meet him. Suki regained her composure, asking suspiciously, suppose that's true. But if your target is a dragon who's lost his mind, what will you do after reading his thoughts? Estio said cryptically, I don't really intend to interfere in anything. The black cat turned away, feigning indifference to his words. Su Hanan is dangerous. I won't stop you from seeing him at the inauguration ceremony. But that's it. Suki emphasized the warning. Never let yourself get emotionally involved with any AI. The black cat's admonition made Estio question himself. Am I sympathizing with him? Dawn broke, signaling the arrival of a beautiful day. Amidst the bustling crowd, Khan breathed a sigh of relief. During the attack, I really thought I was going to die. So everyone is on their way to Elia too? What a coincidence. It seems there's still a lot of mystery surrounding the unicorn incident. But why did I recover so quickly? It's strange. Estio seemed distracted, lost in thought. I'm not sure I can clearly explain my bloodline. Perhaps it's best to remain silent. Nisa looked at him with a bewildered expression. Are we there yet? Parker immediately replied, not yet. While observing the vast and majestic landscape, he said, we're still a long way from our destination. This is just the first mountain peak. We have to cross 5 more mountains to get there. The monkey exclaimed in surprise, echoing Parker's words while still excited. 5 mountains? Parker cheerfully confirmed, exactly. But luckily, I know a shortcut. The joy was short-lived, as he began to doubt himself. When he saw the sight before his eyes. This is what you call a shortcut. Just then, Khan flew up high. The little unicorn pointed the way. Fly from this point. Parker hesitated. But Khan, I'm the only one with wings. Nobody else can fly. Khan reassured him. It's okay, don't worry. Of course I'm not going to make you fly alone. The unicorn smiled, offering. Do you truly believe I would forget how you saved my life? The child's playful tone puzzled Estio, causing him to look up. Suddenly, everyone gasped, their eyes darting around. I hear the sound of hooves echoing from somewhere. Nizu, startled, suddenly pointed towards the sky above, against the clear blue sky. For magnificent Cheelants were soaring towards them. A Cheelan with a golden coat called out, my child. The child cried out joyfully. Elder Kirin. The elder landed gracefully. So you're safe. I was so worried. When the sparrows told me you were being chased by humans, the child quickly explained, these people saved me. Can we invite them to Elia? The elder asked incredulously. Humans saved you? He refused outright without hesitation. But we can't be ungrateful to our saviors. The child exclaimed in shock. The Chilean elder with an azure coat pleaded. Elder, they are not cruel hunters. They are our benefactors, the ones who saved my life and healed my wounds. I am deeply indebted to them, and I long to repay their kindness. Kieran furrowed his brow, asking, Do you wish to heal your wounds? The elder looked skeptical. But I see no injuries on you, and I detect no scent of blood. Were you hurt when the hunters captured you? The young horse recalled the scene of being gravely wounded, his voice trembling as he spoke. I stepped in a trap and broke my leg. Then I was attacked with magic. I suffered a near-fatal wound. The other unicorns were astonished, unable to believe their ears. Only the sacred spring in Elia can heal a Pegasus's wounds. The elder stared intently at Sudio, who stood silently and obediently. If not that, then only the dragons, the creatures who created the Pegasi. He landed before the boy and asked kindly, What is your name? Estio politely introduced himself. The Chilean suddenly knelt on one knee, showing deep respect. He bowed his head reverently. Welcome, last descendant of the Black Dragon lineage. Parker's surprised voice rang out. We can see Kianma and Chilean everywhere. The child asked curiously, Are you that surprised? We have a close relationship with the bird tribe and interact with them frequently. His eyes sparkled, a bright smile spreading across his face. Since leaving the bird village to work in the city, everything here is incredibly new. The blue Chilean thought to himself. But what's even more interesting is you. While looking at Estio's back, he couldn't believe that he was a descendant of the Black Dragon. The Chilean continued to ponder. He looks no different from an ordinary human. At the same time, the Chilean respectfully invited Estio. This way, please. A turquoise lake, shimmering with an ethereal light, gradually appeared before their eyes. After the elder finished speaking, the mythical Kieran was born from this very sacred lake. Kieran, with his shimmering golden hair, continued the story. This is the place I wanted Lady Doharan to see. If she could return here, the heavenly horses she blessed would continue to thrive in this sacred land. Estio quickly denied, I am not Doharan, elder. The elder remained calm and replied, However, I still want you to know, you are the last vestige of the Black Dragon that still exists in this world. Estio pressed his lips together as if to protest, but then restrained himself. I never wanted that. The elder continued to explain, This lake is blessed by the gods. The pebbles here are imbued with the magic of the golden dragon, as if to prove Kieran's words. Gentle sunlight shone upon the still surface of the lake, making the water sparkle. Pausing for a moment, he slowly continued. These three key elements intertwine to create a unicorn. Stio asked curiously, Then how are Pegasi born? The elder lowered his voice, a melancholic expression on his face. Now, there are no more. As the boy reached down to the still surface of the lake and picked up a small stone, Kieran began to explain. Pegasi are born from the mystical magic of the Black Dragon. The elder continued, his voice flat and emotionless. Because Lady Do-Ain has returned to the embrace of the gods, there's no one left who can provide that magical source. Kieran, sweating nervously, cautiously suggested, So, perhaps you could share some of your magic with us? Since you are the heir to the noble Black Dragon lineage. Stio was silent, a feeling of helplessness welling up inside him. I can't. He gave up, dropping the stone back into the lake, silently berating himself. I don't know what magic is, and I'm not any kind of heir. The stone plopped into the still surface of the lake, making a small sound. Not too loud, not too soft, but enough to stir something within. The elder, understanding, responded tactfully, If it troubles you to speak of it, I will not press the matter further. Still filled with questions, Stio continued his inquiry. I have a question. Did Master Co. Hanan ever lend aid to this place? Kieran looked surprised, emphasizing each word. You already know of Master Co. Hanan. The elder fell into deep thought, a puzzled expression on his face. How strange. Master Co. Hanan never mentioned this person. The old man's voice echoed in the vast, silent space. He once intended to destroy everything Duaran held dear, but at least he always protected Elia. Stio stared at Kieran, his face filled with confusion, unsure of what was happening. The elder continued to recount what he knew. I don't know the details, But Master Co Hanan's true nature is that of a dragon slayer. Stio spoke sternly, addressing the elder. The old man gently offered, "Please call me Kirin." Stio calmly questioned, determined to uncover the truth. The elder's words startled Kirin. Could it be that Co Hanan truly murdered Duarian? Kirin couldn't remain calm, immediately objecting. Absolutely impossible. That's absolutely not true. Heaven and earth can bear witness. Those are just baseless rumors spread by humans. The elder eagerly tried to clarify the situation. They were soulmates, life partners, their souls intertwined, their hearts beating as one. If one were to die, the other would follow soon after. Therefore, they could never harm each other. Sto quickly grasped the key point in the elder's words. So that means if Co Hanan is still alive, then Duarian isn't dead. Kirin replied softly, his face filled with sorrow. Lady Duarian, she is truly gone. Because she created me, this Kirin, so I can feel her passing. The elder continued, despite Kirin's grief and confusion. But her heart still beats. Kirin tried to recount what he knew. I heard that. Dragons possess the ability to pass their hearts down to their descendants before they breathe their last. The elder's eyes welled up with tears, overcome with emotion. Therefore, as long as the bloodline continues, that heart will beat forever. When I listen to the beat within his chest, I can feel Deo Arian's soul. Sto gasped, clutching his chest. He took a deep breath, finishing his interrupted sentence. I am the inheritor of Deo Arian's heart. Immediately after his declaration, Sto began to analyze the situation internally. But the flow of time doesn't match up. Deo Arian vanished over a millennium ago, and I was only born 19 years ago. Wait, how long was I asleep in that egg? Kirin spoke with indignation, revealing the harsh truth. The one who betrayed Deo Arian and took her life wasn't Sahanan. It was humanity. Sto was stunned, unable to believe what he had just heard. I need some time to think about this. Forgive me, Elder, I need some air. In the warm, sun-drenched forest, the rustling leaves harmonized with the sounds of nature. Suki gently approached, calling out to Sto. As if understanding his sorrow, the small cat comforted him. Don't cry anymore. Seeing Sto's tear-stained face, Suki's heart ached. Why are you the one crying? Suddenly, Sto realized something. He clutched his chest, where his heart was aching. She hasn't disappeared. She's always been by his side, protecting him. Overwhelmed with emotion, he couldn't speak. Suki pleaded, please don't cry anymore. Suddenly, the black cat called out to Sto. A series of loud noises startled them both. Sto turned his head towards the sky in terror, his face filled with disbelief. A herd of unicorns was frantically fleeing from human pursuers. Chains binding their bodies came into view. Ruby's commanding voice echoed, ordering the capture of the mythical horses. Brutal commands echoed relentlessly, urging them onward. Eliminating the large monsters seemed to have lost all importance. Stio rushed towards the others, anxiously asking, is everyone all right? Parker, horrified and filled with rage, exclaimed, unbelievable! They don't even have wings. But then he noticed something strange in the distance. He couldn't believe his eyes as he witnessed a bird-human hybrid hunting unicorns. Why would a birdman do that? Ahuru's voice was filled with alarm. Wait, there's something worse. He stared at Ruby's cloak. That's the Holy Palace's insignia. Seeing the cross symbol on the cloak, Parker gasped in terror. Holy Knights. They're Holy Knights, who only act on direct orders from above. The Holy Knights looked down at Stio's group and the two celestial horses. A male member with vibrant pink hair. His gaze shifted to the man with gleaming blonde hair. Captain, these people aren't on the directive list. The captain spoke, his tone cautionary. Just stick to the mission you've been given. It would be wiser if we didn't interfere in matters that don't concern us. He turned and gestured to a female officer with fiery red hair. Lipe, activate the microphone. Lipe, do it now. His voice rang out sharply. Yes, sir, came the swift reply. Amplified by sound amplifying magic. The captain's voice boomed across the area. This is a decree from the new Pope. Elio will now be under the joint control of the Royal Palace, the Ruberazan Empire, and the Holy Church. Below, someone in the crowd shouted in outrage. This land doesn't belong to anyone. Above, the captain drew his gleaming sword from its scabbard. Any act of defiance will be considered high treason. His eyes flashed with anger, and will be punished according to the law. With that, he slammed his sword into the ground. The sacred sword plunged into the earth, its surface crackling with violent bolts of lightning. The flashing light grew increasingly intense, accompanied by deafening thunder that shook the very air. The terrifying sound echoed across the island. Witnessing this spectacle, the young man with the pink hair gasped in astonishment. Is he trying to destroy the entire Sao island? Lib responded indifferently. Impossible. He hasn't even scorched half the island yet. Another member of the Holy Knights shook his head in dismay. That guy was sent to protect Elia, yet he's already destroyed almost half of it. Kieran stepped forward, questioning. Is this how the Holy Church oversees Elia? Completely disregarding the AI's authority. The captain with golden hair seemed unconcerned. He turned to Lib and asked, are they rebelling on Sao Island? Lib replied, his tone certain. It seems so. Parker frantically intervened. Please stop, he exclaimed in deep sorrow. Elia is the last refuge, the only paradise left for the sky horses. He pleaded, begged. Please forgive us. Please don't turn this beautiful sky island into a bloody battlefield. Suddenly, a hunter stealthily approached Parker without him knowing. The hunter was covered in wounds, but his eyes still held a terrifying ferocity. He gripped a sharp crossbow in his hand. His words hissed through gritted teeth. Those horses, they're right in front of me. Don't even try to stop me. The sound of an arrow whistling through the air rang out. Reflexively, Parker closed his eyes and raised his arm to block, but the expected pain didn't come. He opened his eyes and looked around, astonishment clear on his face. Parker looked down at his companion. He was unharmed because the Chelan had used its body to shield him from the deadly arrow. The sharp arrow was embedded deep in the poor creature's neck. The Chelan collapsed, blood gushing out. Parker cried out in horror. Chelan, Nizu, and Steve rushed over to check on. The captain stood above, his eyes showing clear displeasure at the cruel act. He roared in fury. I told you not to target the horses. The hunter stammered, his voice trembling. It had jumped out on its own. The Holy Knight captain ran his fingers through his hair, sighing in exasperation. Damn it, this is exactly why we shouldn't bring these hunters along. Suddenly, he froze, terror filling his eyes. What's happening? Why can't I move? His eyes darted around frantically, then landed on Estio, who stood below, cloaked in black. A thought struck him. Could it be that black-haired kid? The more he looked, the more an indescribable dread emanated from the boy. A thought flashed through the captain's mind. That thing. What in the world is it? Below, Estio seemed to be burning with rage. He asked coldly, how do you want me to deal with them? Parker anxiously checked his horse for injuries. He looked up, confusion etched on his face. Estio spoke. We could erase their memories and set them free. No outward display of killing intent. But Estio's demeanor was truly frightening. But I really don't know if that method would truly solve the problem. Probably not. Then he suddenly uttered a chilling sentence. Or should I just kill them all? Parker was horrified, stunned for a moment, thinking to himself, strange, the guild leader is acting completely different today. Suddenly, Estio looked up, apologetically saying to Parker, I'm sorry. He looked around and said, I'm not even sure who's in the right in this fight anymore. Sahanan, are you protecting Elia just to keep her for yourself? Estio clenched his fists, questioning himself. In the end, are the heavenly horses just pawns to be sacrificed to your wrath? To your rage, Estio declared, I will not die. The girl carries my blood. The frail child called out Estio's name. He commanded her to stand, and she shakily obeyed. Estio gently stroked the child's face and cautiously asked, what do you want me to do with them? He spoke to the child honestly. I could do anything you wish. Observing Estio's actions from below, the captain assessed the situation as extremely dangerous. This is some kind of widespread mind control ability. He looked into Estio's eyes, lost in thought. He has the same eyes as our Pope. Leip suddenly spoke. It seems he's the leader of this nice society that our Pope has been concerned about. The captain was astonished. So it's him? Leip added. I hear he can read people's minds. In midair, another squad member spoke up, but looking at the current situation, it seems he possesses even more terrifying abilities. Another one adamantly retorted, impossible. That creature is absolutely not human. Recalling the terrifying man, the blonde-haired captain asserted, is the same kind as our master. The pink-haired man burst out laughing, as if he had just heard the most ridiculous joke. Give a warning next time you're about to tell a joke like that. You sound pretty serious, Captain. But the captain's pensive and stern expression didn't convey any hint of jest. The smile on the pink-haired man's face slowly faltered. Finally, he stammered, Are you serious? The captain replied, We'll know if he's real when we face him. Suddenly, he realized he could move again. I can move. He turned and signaled to Lip. Lip responded, switching to relic form. Tiny, sparkling emerald green energy particles shimmered around her as she cast the spell. Before Rule, a holy sword gradually materialized. The surrounding energy slowly dissipated. The holy sword became clearer and more real than ever. A strong hand reached out, firmly grasping the hilt. The imposing captain, holy sword in hand, pointed the blade towards the ground and declared boldly, First, eliminate the troublemakers. The tip of the sword began to accumulate energy with incredible speed. It emitted a blinding light, making it impossible to look directly at it. The light converged, forming an immensely powerful attack, aimed directly at the island. A blinding flash ripped through the sky, crashing down upon the island with terrifying force. The devastating attack shook a corner of the island, sending dust and debris billowing into the air. Rocks and dirt flew everywhere, forcing Sushio's group to squeeze their eyes shut and shield their faces with their hands. Parker groaned, Oh my God! When the aftershock subsided, Parker peeked open his eyes, his face filled with astonishment. Whoa! He looked at the hunters sprawled on the ground. He was utterly shocked. There's no way those hunters could have been taken out so easily. The captain of the Holy Knights spoke, his voice filled with authority. The leader of the Chainsaw Guild. It seems he landed on the island right after launching that attack. He approached, sword in hand, his intentions clear in his eyes. Seems like you're having trouble dealing with this trash, huh? So I took care of it for you. He introduced himself. I am Ruby F., the only Blue Knight entrusted with protecting Elia. By order of the Pope. Estio calmly replied. A prospective Pope who hasn't been inaugurated cannot be called the true Pope. He has no authority to command the Holy Knights. So, He stared at Ruby, continuing, are not a knight loyal to the Pope, but merely Sahanan's obedient lapdog. Looking at the arrogant man before him, Estio finished with a sharp glare. One of Ruby's guards scoffed. Oh, so the guild leader already knows? What in the world are you? Estio remained silent, offering no reply. Seemingly not expecting an answer either, he hoisted his sword onto his shoulder and said casually, Well, whatever. I never do anything outside of the orders I'm given anyway. That being said, eliminating a potential threat that might hinder my master's work seems like the right thing to do. As soon as he finished speaking, Ruby lunged towards Estio. He roared furiously, My master will be pleased if I bring back your head. A sharp clang resonated in the air. Both the sword and Ruby were knocked back. The sword in his hand still vibrated intensely, a testament to the force of the impact. He wondered in disbelief. How could he block my attack? Standing before Ruby was no longer Estio, but a tiger with eyes of gold and crimson, glaring at him with fierce rage. Suki had transformed into a tiger, protectively shielding Estio. It just knocked Ruby backward. Estio anxiously called out to Suki. Ruby, terrified, gritted his teeth, completely losing his will to fight at the sight of the ferocious Suki. He suddenly realized something astonishing. A monster, completely unaffected by the holy sword. Suki opened its mouth, letting out a deafening roar. The powerful roar sent Ruby tumbling backward. His teammates were horrified. Captain Ruby gave a nervous laugh. I thought I could win, but I didn't expect you to have such a powerful guardian too. Estio paid no attention to the captain's words. He reassured Suki. Calm down, Suki. The tiger turned its head, its eyes filled with rage. He tried to kill you. Estio replied, I'm all right. I'm still alive. Suki was furious. It couldn't understand Estio's naivete. Why are you still so calm? That disgusting bastard tried to take your life. Estio nodded. But he couldn't hurt me. Suki asked, Did you read his mind? A thoughtful expression flickered across Estio's face, as if pondering something deeper than the words just spoken. He intently observed the sword in Ruby's hand. I sensed the will residing within the sword he wields. Lipe suddenly stepped forward, startling Blueberry, who gasped, Huh? Lipe glanced at her, seemingly displeased with her involuntary reaction. Blueberry's face contorted in a disgruntled expression. Hey, I never ordered you to turn human. Ignoring her, Lipe walked directly up to Estio and asked, What's your name? Estio replied simply, Estio. She resolutely declared, I've decided. From now on, I will not attack you. Blueberry remained slumped on the ground behind them, still seemingly shaken from the fright. Fear still clung to her preventing her from getting up. He angrily roared, "By the AI's command? Retract that. That's an order." Lipe stubbornly turned around, retorting, "I refuse. Lipe has the right to decide for herself." Blueberry clutched her head in distress. "This is driving me crazy." STO pondered silently. Why would she betray her own comrade? The young man felt a sense of familiarity with the girl's face, as if he had seen her somewhere before. Looking closer, he realized she shared a striking resemblance to Do A Hyen. Light placed a hand on his chest and declared solemnly, "I was born from the bones of the golden dragon, and I can sense a similar energy emanating from you. Su Hyen and Do A Hyen. I know they once performed a soul-binding ritual." STO thought to himself, so that means my father is... At that thought, STO refused to dwell on it any longer. He spoke coldly, "Go back." Lipe immediately turned and left. Meanwhile, Blueberry, who had just been helped up by his comrades, was utterly astonished. He staggered, pointing at himself and stammering, "What? You're not going to kill me? You're letting me go?" STO replied calmly, "That's right." Blueberry couldn't understand. "Even though I try to kill you, you don't hold a grudge?" STO calmly explained. "Those who angered me are already 6 feet under." He glanced toward his own group. "The people I vowed to protect are safe and sound. So, I have no worries." He took a step forward and made a request. "Therefore, return to Sahanian and relay this message to him. On the appointed day, I will arrive at the Elysium Sanctuary." STO declared solemnly, "I have a few questions for him in the coming weeks." Parker lowered his newspaper and sighed. "I thought we could rest for a bit after that chaos in Elia." He slapped the newspaper, expressing his utter frustration. "But every day is a battle. This country is truly in turmoil." Just then, STO approached with a tray of cookies. Parker looked up at him and said worriedly, "Every day there's urgent news. I'm afraid it will be a long time before Lord Mubion returns home." STO placed a tray of cookies on the table and replied, "I understand." Parker eyed the freshly baked cookies, but their appearance was anything but appealing. He hesitated before asking, "This cookie baking, you've been diligently practicing for days now, haven't you?" STO popped a cookie into his mouth, chewed thoughtfully, and replied, "Yes, I was worried STO would offer me a cookie." Parker quickly changed the subject. Aren't you worried about Mubin?" STO shrugged. "Not yet." Parker's eyes widened in confusion. "You mean he's fine because you haven't received any bad news?" STO picked up another cookie and explained, "He's truly fine. No need to worry. I can feel it." Just then, a knock suddenly echoed. Parker stood up and looked around. "Did you hear that knocking?" After a moment of observation, he realized someone was tapping at the window. Parker was astonished to see a strange figure on the window ledge. By the windowsill, a toy soldier doll stood at attention, saluting. It seemed to possess a soul, or perhaps it was pre-programmed. As it flashed a bright smile, "I am Master's doll. Greetings." Parker opened the window wide, allowing the doll to step inside and onto the sill. It introduced itself. "My name is Johnny. I come here on Master Steve's orders. He sends his greetings." "Hello," the doll continued. "Master has a message for the leader." Steve wondered aloud. A message? As if activated, a recording began to play. The doll's voice delivered the message. "Good morning. I hope you slept well. It seems today is a special holiday for you. This is a message from Kai, the owner of this talking doll." Her voice rings out clearly from the doll. "I sincerely apologize for interrupting your precious rest. But as soon as you receive this message, please prepare yourself thoroughly. On the first day of the new year, the Pillar of Light Festival will be held. That night, at my magnificent mansion." CO lay in bed, tossing and turning with restless thoughts. "It is rumored that the Pope holds supreme power, rivaling even the Emperor, and the current Pope was only officially appointed after performing the soul purification ritual. To be invited to such an important ceremony, not the Emperor, but me. What a tremendous honor." He clenched his fists, lost in thought. Perhaps Sahanan already knows that I... Esther turned away, lost in a whirlwind of thoughts. No, there's absolutely no way he could be unaware of Iron's death. He wondered, troubled, why Sahanan had summoned him. Just then, a familiar voice reached his ears. "This doesn't feel right, STO." It was Suki, hopping onto STO's bed, nuzzling against him, and softly advised, "Like I said, don't go to that baptism ceremony. Seeing him will only bring you more pain." STO sat up, his voice firm. "I still have to go, Suki." Suki's worry was evident. "This time, I might not be able to protect you." He picked Suki up, gently reassuring him. "It's all right. Whatever happens, I'll handle it." Estio held Suki close, stroking his soft fur. So, don't worry anymore, okay? He comforted the cat's eyes, filled with worry and sadness. But Suki didn't say anything more. The last day of the year, Parker had arrived earlier and was chatting with Kai and Zen. He noticed Estio approaching. He waved his hand and called out, "Captain, over here." Estio walked over, surprised to see the person standing next to Parker. It was Kai. She smiled and nodded. "Hey there, long time no see." Estio returned the greeting. "Hello to you too, Zen." She gave a slight bow towards Zen. He asked curiously, but Estio asked, "Aren't you incredibly busy, Kai?" Kai replied, "I am very busy, but the thought of you facing Su Hanan alone, I was really worried." She explained further, "Unfortunately, no one else in the guild is free to go with you right now. Both you and Ju. Even GA is swamped at the moment. I may not be much help, but I figured going with you would at least offer some support." Hearing that, Parker chuckled. "Well, if we consider it that way, Captain, you won't be completely alone on this journey. However, if you were to come along, I would feel much more at ease." He scratched his head, forcing a smile to mask the worry building inside. "Honestly, I'm a bit apprehensive about this as well." Kai cleared her throat and spoke. "When I think about that sanctuary," she continued, explaining her reasoning, "I will go with you as requested." She spoke sincerely. "If anything happens to you, I will do everything in my power to help." Kai seemed lost in thought. "Of course, this visit is for a sacred baptism. Nothing bad should happen, especially considering who we might encounter. I'm really not sure about anything." The thought of Emperor Su Hanan crossed Stio's mind. He thought to himself, "Should I tell her about my relationship with Co Hanan? Should I tell her about Co Hanan? Perhaps it doesn't matter anymore." St brooded, a flicker of sadness in his eyes. "He has never met me, not even once in the past 19 years. Kai urged, "Let's go." Watching everyone step into the portal one by one, St's mind remained a tangled mess of chaotic thoughts. He must have. St silently strode forward, merging with the flow of people. A profound loneliness welled up within him. He stepped through the portal without needing any assistance. They arrived at the sanctuary on the other side, where majestic angel statues stood guard. The sanctuary's vaulted ceiling soared, built in an ancient circular architecture. From here, they could admire the glittering, starry sky above. Someone exclaimed in awe, "This is Elysium." Park Seo curiously observed his surroundings, his eyes scanning. The space exuded a solemn, silent aura, eerily quiet, with hardly a soul in sight. Kai suddenly spotted two figures darting past. They seemed to be intentionally avoiding them, not wanting a confrontation. The girl spoke, "The last time I was here, it was completely different." Strange, Kai frowned, more alert than ever. Something's definitely happened. The girl's gaze fell upon the flickering candles in a dark corner. "The sacred candles," she whispered. "The flames meant to ward off evil are now so weak. We'd best avoid any encounters with anyone loyal to the new pope," she continued, "until we reach the altar." As the group moved silently, a chilling sound echoed, making everyone's skin crawl. Parker, as usual, was the first to cry out in fear. "What was that?" he stammered. Esther tried to remain calm, analyzing. "It sounded like a wolf's howl." "Wolves? In the palace?" Parker exclaimed in terror, proposing a horrifying theory. "Could it be? Or is it? Sahanan has unleashed a monster to seize the palace." Kai chuckled. "That's not a wolf." She smiled brightly. "It's a dog." Parker looked doubtful, his face filled with disbelief. But still, he asked worriedly, "A dog? A dog?" A shadow streaked across the ceiling and landed. A ferocious growl echoed throughout the cathedral. Drool dripped from its jaws. Its appearance was anything but gentle. Its silhouette was outlined against the cathedral's dome, where the glittering stars could be seen. It was a white dog with a single horn, like a unicorn. Kai introduced the guardian dog of the Saintess Heaven, Isul, Niju. His eyes shone with pride. "It looks just like her." Parker was frightened, his face pale. "It looks more like a bear." The guardian dog's form flickered, vanishing from the cathedral dome. It landed on the ground. They walked along the rows of pillars supporting the magnificent dome. Observing this, Kai spoke up. "I've heard that Heaven Exius is a divine beast descended from the heavens, with the sacred mission of protecting the Holy Maiden." As a majestic divine dog blocked their path, Kai continued, drawing on his knowledge. "From what I understand, it won't be violent and bloodthirsty like a common monster." Parker didn't think so. He trembled and stepped back, cautiously asking, "Are you sure?" Sensing their movement, The divine dog growled warily, emitting a low threat. Parker jumped, exclaiming in panic, "I take it back." The ferocious dog bared its fangs, as if about to lunge and tear apart anyone it deemed to be violating the sacred sanctuary. Stio calmly stepped forward, despite Parker's anxiety, and commanded the divine dog, "Stop. I will show you that I can communicate with you through thoughts." In a brief moment, the young boy's eyes shone with determination. Before Stio, a clear voice rang out, "I'm here to guide you by the Saintess's order." Hearing this, Greasel Parker breathed a sigh of relief, but still a bit bewildered, he asked, "I'm glad it's not here to harm us. But why the Saintess and not Sahanin?" The boy's eyes hardened as he replied, "I won't listen to anyone but Greasel." At that moment, Stio spoke up and asked, "Is it true that Sahanin will become Pope?" Hef quickly explained, "Suhanin is beloved by God. He has the qualities to change the world and holds the power to command righteousness. Therefore, Greasel believed that he is worthy of becoming Pope. That's why, it's clear, Sahanin will be ordained as Pope, even though you also possess all those qualities." It gnashed its teeth, eyes filled with hatred. He voiced the doubt in his heart. "Why are you revealing this to me? In 7 days, I will take you to meet Gresso. However, you are not allowed to bring any of your companions." Parker was shocked by this demand. He quickly grabbed his arm, his voice choked with emotion. "We can't let you go alone." The white monkey beside him was equally panicked, exclaiming, "Niju will go with you." Hef frowned, his voice cold. "Make your decision. If you don't meet Gresso, you won't be able to meet Suanin." Stio asked, "But why?" It then began to recount the whole story. The Saintess chooses the Pope and cares for them, because Suanin received the Saintess's grace. Suki suddenly spoke up, urging, "Stio, go. You said you wanted to meet the golden dragon Suanin." The creature pleaded with Stio to set out and convince the Saintess. "If she agrees, we can go meet the golden dragon together." Suki's eyes suddenly lit up, her gaze towards him becoming unusually earnest. "I'll wait for you." The two friends embraced tightly, seemingly reluctant to part with Stio, then suddenly let go, stammering, "I'll wait here. I'll wait for you to come back with HEV2. Stio smiled, but didn't forget to look back at his two friends, firmly asserted, "I will definitely come back." With that, the mysterious creature stomped its foot on the ground, and in an instant, its appearance completely transformed, becoming a majestic, magnificent unicorn. Stio gazed intently at the legendary creature before him. Without hesitation, he climbed onto the unicorn's back, settling himself firmly. The scenery shifted, transporting Stio to another place resembling a grand and magnificent temple. As Stio curiously observed his surroundings, a gentle, melodious voice suddenly echoed, "I'm deeply grateful that you accepted my request, honored guest." The Saintess gracefully introduced herself. "I am one of the descendants, inheriting the name J. Grizel." The young man responded formally, "I am Stio." She smiled warmly. "Stio, it is a pleasure to meet you." J. Grizel gently patted Heave's head beside her and said, "Thank you, Heave." Stio spoke, carefully reiterating the purpose of his visit today. "I came here at the invitation of Sahanin. If you intend to prevent me from seeing him." Before he could finish, she quickly interrupted, "Sir Stio, I truly hope you can meet with Sahanin." J. Grizel explained, "The only person who can help calm him is you, the arbiter who can understand one's inner thoughts, one of the black dragons. Now, let me tell you his story." Sahanin clasped his hands together, as if in earnest prayer. "The first time I met Sahanin, he was completely consumed by rage, lost to reason. He couldn't control the fury burning within him, and inflicted countless wounds upon himself. The network of scars, large and small, that covered his back were a testament to that. Holy water could perhaps heal the wounds on his body, but it couldn't soothe the pain that tormented his soul. Blood soaked his clothes, staining the deep gashes on his body crimson. I was helpless, unable to stop his frenzy. All I could do was silently mourn his cruel fate." Jigglypuff confided in him, her voice filled with sorrow. She continued pleadingly, as if begging for something incredibly important. "He's the last member of Gold, after all. I decided to follow him, even if he ultimately chooses the path of destruction, annihilating all of humanity." Estel looked dubious at Greel's strange words. "How can you be sure that I have the ability to stop high?" He didn't hesitate, immediately explaining, "Because you are one of the black dragons, the ones I love." He immediately refuted those words. Sahanin loved Du Arian, Not me. Jigrasal spoke up and asked, "Could you listen to my story for a moment longer?" She softly recounted. Lord Sahanan did not witness Lady Duarian's final moments. When all the dragons left the human world, returning to the dragon realm, Lady Duarian suddenly disappeared. I heard rumors that the reason was because when humans realized that the judging gods were abandoning their world, they betrayed Lady Duarian to seize her power for themselves. They betrayed Lady Duarian to claim her power for their own. The reason for Sahanan's loss of control was gradually becoming clear. It suggests they were hunting a legendary creature, a dragon. Humans cruelly took her life. They believed possessing the black dragon's heart would grant them the power to rule the world. Whether this tragic tale is true or not, it no longer matters. Those so-called heroes turned the dragon's scales and the black dragon's bones into trophies. And when Suhanian witnessed that barbaric scene, he completely lost his mind. Poor Do'aran was now nothing but a cold corpse. Grisol's voice became somber, more sorrowful than ever. Even I cannot fathom why Lady Do'aran fell victim to the temptations of humans and couldn't resist them. Nevertheless, she vanished. When Suhanian learned of this heartbreaking truth, rage ignited within him, consuming everything. He descended further into madness each day. Finally, the other dragons used all their might, desperately trying to pull him back with unbreakable chains. However, at the last moment, just before the gate between the two worlds closed, he severed the chains, binding him with his own hands, and fell into the abyss. Now, because of the grievous wounds he suffered then, he has lost much of his extraordinary power and is teetering on the brink of death. She was heartbroken by his tragic fate. Even Shushio, when he first learned the truth, was utterly astonished. Jerzu pleaded, "That is why I dare to tell this story. But please end his rage, so that he may find eternal rest." The boy, without hesitation, quietly agreed. "All right, I need to tell him that Iron's heart is inside me. At least, that's what I think." Estio gently placed his hand over his left chest, pondered for a moment, and then replied, "If that's true." The rage that had just erupted in Estio's chest moments before suddenly vanished as he spoke. A terrifying image flashed through his mind. Suki lay motionless in a pool of crimson blood, weakly calling his name in despair, begging Estio to save her. His eyes widened in shock. Estio frantically cried out Suki's name, leaving Jay Grayson beside him stunned. "Grayson!" She quickly spoke as she saw Estio's hurried footsteps. Elsewhere, Lord Estio had just finished dealing with the soldiers. He stopped abruptly when a voice suddenly called out, "Lord Estio." Suki's faint voice echoed, as if trying to stop him. "Don't come here. Don't come here, Estio." Elsewhere, Blueberry, with an arrogant sneer, said, "We meet again." The leader of Ignis stood tall, Suki's lifeless body at his feet. Estio silently knelt beside Suki. He taunted, "I almost had to come looking for you myself. So, be grateful you showed up on your own. You're still silent." His eyes were fixed on Suki, lying motionless in a pool of blood. He whispered her name, his voice barely audible. "Suki." Nizu, despite being gravely wounded and barely breathing, tried to urge Estro away. "Go! Get out of here, Estro!" Kai agreed, desperately trying to stop Estro. "You have to run. I should have protected them better. I have no excuses for this. It was a surprise attack. They just happened to have a fire ability user. That's why my puppets were hindered." Nearby, charred and blackened wooden puppets lay scattered on the ground. She was badly injured and needed Jin to help her up before she could continue speaking. Seo, Hanan, Suhan, assuming this is the intended name based on context. "It seems he cares for you more than we anticipated." She panicked, gasping, "Master." Stio ignored everyone's pleas and tried to reason with Kai. "Now, get some rest." "Kai, I can't." Before he could finish, his expression turned icy, a stark contrast to his usual demeanor. Kai tried to respond weakly, but he collapsed into unconsciousness from exhaustion before he could finish his sentence. Blueberry's voice rang out, "All right, did you just get back from meeting with Jagirl? She's clearly just a mediocre saintess, one who loves to pry and gossip." He showed clear disdain for Jagirl. He continued, his reminder laced with a threatening undertone. "If you dare break your word and not meet my master, or try to run away now, you will suffer grave consequences, Chief." Rubery spoke with a confident and mocking tone. "If you dare to break the oath you swore before Jagirl, you will be punished by the gods above." Estio's face darkened, his eyes filled with gloom. With unwavering resolve, Sayo's voice resonated, echoing the dreadful punishment bestowed by the highest powers. His sharp, commanding gaze sent shivers down Ruberi's spine, startling him into a state of panic. In utter astonishment, Ruberi slowly raised his sword. Sayo instantly unleashed his mind control abilities, causing Ruberi and his henchmen to tremble in terror. They instinctively raised their weapons in defense, wary of his every word. This is the consequence you must bear for the cruel acts you have committed. Sayo had completely taken control of Ruberi's mind, forcing him to unconsciously hold the sharp blade against his own throat. The cold steel touched his skin. Is this still not enough to make you see reason? Sayo's voice boomed, firm and authoritative. Suin sent you here. If so, you should only follow his orders and take me to him. Why did you dare attack innocent people? Ruberi's hand trembled violently as he gripped the sword. He realized with dread that Sayo's power had far surpassed his own. In just a few short weeks, I can't fight him, resist the divine power within him any longer. Just then, Estio opened his eyes wide, responding to the thoughts swirling within him, as if he could hear everything. You are merely facing the consequences of your own actions, so don't blame fate. Estio's words, each one laced with a chilling malice, sharp as cactus thorns, full of menace. Ahuru suddenly rushed forward to intervene. Wait, he exclaimed. I don't intend to stop you from punishing them. Estio was also surprised by Ahuru's sudden appearance. Ruby gasped Ahuru and silently observed him, her heart filled with complex emotions. But his body was trembling uncontrollably, afraid that any moment now he would lose his life to his own blade. He's not just an ordinary cactus. Ahuru continued. We should find out why they attacked us. Of course, I understand if you don't want to hear their explanation, but are you really sure that you won't regret taking their lives? Style. Ahuru. Part. Spell. Regaining his composure, Estio stammered. I already do. He held Suki's body in his arms as he replied. Estio clutched Suki tightly, overwhelmed with a torrent of emotions. I shouldn't have jumped to the conclusion that the golden dragon wasn't my enemy. He recalled the image of the golden dragon, questioning himself. Suki was right. I sympathized with him too hastily without thinking. I shouldn't have left them alone. Estio remembered the moment before help took him away. Now, his mind was filled with torment and self-blame. No, actually, I shouldn't have brought him here with me. After careful consideration, he made a firm decision, telling Ahuru, I have nothing left to lose. Please don't stop me. Seeing this, Ahuru hurriedly explained, flustered. There's one more thing you haven't considered. These men are the Golden Dragon's guards. If you lay a hand on all of them, will you still have a chance to speak with the Golden Dragon? And surprisingly, no one has died. So, let's all calm down for a moment. Let me reiterate. Ahuru excitedly informed Stio upon seeing his close companions, including Kai, Jin, Nizu, and Peikyo, all still barely clinging to life, albeit in a deep coma. He stammered, unable to believe what he had just heard. They're still alive? It affirmed, they are definitely not dead. They will recover after I treat them with my special flowers. So, Estio, what will you do next? This question reminded Estio of his initial goal, which was to annihilate the entire Blueberry crew, to avenge his fallen comrades. But after calming down, he realized the most important thing now was to heal the wounded. Ahuru agreed. All right, let's start treating them. Now, Estio no longer harbored the same hatred for the Blueberry group. He said to the Ruby group, everyone can rest for a bit. They no longer dared to act rebellious as before, and obediently listened to Estio. After a period of treatment, Baker, Nizu, and Kai had their wounds carefully bandaged and fell asleep. Almost all the medical tools and supplies had been used up. Suki, who was the most severely injured, had also been carefully tended to. A figure approached Blueberry and Blue F. Siohan calmly asked, what orders did you receive from Suhaya? He answered honestly, to eliminate those surrounding him. His words were met with swift retribution. Siohan controlled him, slamming his head against the floor. He coldly corrected, let's be clear, his orders weren't to kill me, but to eliminate my friends. Right? Ruby also yielded, answering truthfully, not to kill them, but to ensure they wouldn't follow you anymore. After hearing the answer, Siohan fell in a deep thought. Suhayak had ordered him to deal with the people around him. Why target them instead of him directly? He warned, don't think I'll obediently comply. obediently following CEO Hanan's orders. Just because he asked me to come here. Ruby spoke hesitantly, cautiously asking, "Don't you want to see our master again?" Stio turned his back and walked away, replying, "I do, but I need to at least wait for my teammates to recover first." All three members of Ruby's group were overwhelmed with helplessness and sadness. You don't care about them at all, yet you ask about Kai's teammate. "How is her injury?" Kai had woken up and cheerfully replied, "This wound is already healed, thanks to you. It's surprising to see that your cactus has such impressive healing abilities. Such impressive healing abilities." Hearing himself being praised, Uhuru proudly cleared his throat and requested, "Call me Dr. D." In the distance, Suki was still fast asleep. CEO spoke, his voice tinged with a quiet sadness. I thought I could protect him. I'm sorry, Ju." He knelt before his friend's lifeless body. Behind the veil of darkness, light pierced through, spilling onto the world below. Reflecting off the circular glass atop the dome, a new day began. The sky a deceptively clear and peaceful blue. Kai looked out at the scene, breathing out, "Is it time? I wish you a safe journey." Stio replied firmly, "I'm not going. I don't know what will happen if I leave everyone again. Protecting my comrades is more important than anything." After the horrific events of yesterday, a haunting unease had settled deep within him. Suddenly, Gil RHL appeared out of thin air, breaking the silence. "You needn't worry about that anymore. I have used my divine power to send your friends to a safe place." Stio anxiously inquired, "Where did you take them?" She answered without hesitation, "I took them to your guild's headquarters. So, you can rest assured. I pray that you will rise to the top and protect everyone." Scene changes. Familiar footsteps slowly ascended the stairs. Stio followed the melodious sound coming from above. A mix of emotions welled up within him as he listened to the melody. After a while, Stio stopped before a large, open door. Inside, the room was lavishly and luxuriously decorated. Piano keys played an endless melody, incredibly soft and gentle. A male figure stood silently before the window. His ears twitched slightly, as if he heard a strange noise. Mixed in with the music, sharp eyes, gleaming with a cold look, suddenly opened. It was none other than Sahanan, the one who had summoned Stio. The boy noticed he had fallen silent, not daring to utter another word, just quietly observing, deducing that the person before him was Suanna. Why was he so still, as if all life had drained from him? Estio, meeting him for the first time in such a circumstance, yet felt so worried for him. He cautiously took a step towards Suanna. With each step he took, Estio accidentally knocked over a heating pipe from the grand piano, shattering it. The sudden noise jolted him from his stupor. He suddenly turned his head. Sahana's gaze made Estio flinch. He froze in place, his eyes wide, trembling as he called out the name, "Du Ahayan." Suanna looked at him, uttering incomprehensible words. Once again, he slipped into a delusional state. "You're wearing another outfit again. Light always chases the darkness. But if you chase too hastily, you'll find the darkness has long since vanished. Even if you were just an illusion, I don't care. So, please stay with me just a little while longer." Du Rayon pleaded desperately, his voice filled with longing. Estio stood silently, allowing the man's hand to gently brush his hair. The moment Sahanian touched him, he was certain that the person before him was the love of his life. He gasped in astonishment, "Oh my God, Du Rayon, you're not a dream." At that moment, the young man introduced himself. "I am Estio of the Znai's Guild. Are you Sahanian, the one who made the request?" Sahanian was stunned by this unexpected information. For a brief moment, disappointment flickered in his eyes. He spoke softly, "You're not Du Rayon. Then, why do I sense Du Rayon within you?" Sahanian trembled, his fingers tightening around the young man's collar. Witnessing Sahanian's immense pain, Stio seemed to feel it all. The agony, the sorrow, and the rage. All those intense emotions overwhelmed him. He felt as if he understood the depths of Sahanian's soul, the thoughts swirling within him. What meaning is there to life without Duarian? If only I could have died in her place. Why must I endure this lonely existence? Bring her back to me. In a flash, Sahanian's expression transformed, becoming ferocious. He grabbed Esto by the collar, his voice filled with accusation. "I can hear Duarian's heartbeat within you. You killed her, didn't you? Could it be that a human has stolen the heart of a dragon? His eyes blazed with fury, as if wanting to tear Esto apart. Sohanian gritted his teeth, his voice a low growl. You skinned her, ripped off her scales. To steal her heart, didn't you? Suddenly, a savage, gleeful laugh echoed through the air. Abruptly, he hung his head low, his crazed mind screaming, look, this is Arin's masterpiece. She gave her love to these lowly humans, but in the end, they didn't love her back. If she no longer exists in this world, then I have no reason to remain here either. Utter despair and helplessness washed over Sohanian's face. He instantly summoned his weapon, the sword, Lipper Stick. Sohanian's sudden action startled Mata Sjo. He rushed forward, shouting, stop! Give it to me. Estio grabbed the sword, making him exclaim in surprise. What? Sohanian only then noticed his action. Amidst the chaos, he was stunned. Wait, how can he touch the holy sword when he's clearly not a guardian? Estio held out the sword in his hand before him, slowly explaining. This heart was left behind by Arin. I will return it to you, the one she loved most. So please, stop torturing yourself. Estio pleaded. Without hesitation, Estio plunged the sword into his own chest. He closed his eyes, thinking, this way, you won't know anything about me anymore. Maybe that's for the best. The image of Shuki suddenly flashed in Estio's mind. He collapsed, fighting back the agonizing pain, trying to comfort himself. If this heart can ease your pain, then maybe things will be all right. If only I had time to say goodbye. Witnessing the horrific scene, Shunin was completely stunned, stammering. Why? He didn't even finish. Estio pulled out a still-beating heart and declared it to be the dragon heart of Duar. He stared intently at the heart in his hand, pondering that only those of the same bloodline, sharing the dragon's blood, could hold a dragon heart without being incinerated. And then his eyes shifted to the sword. Estio gazed at the sword lying still in a pool of crimson blood flowing from his body. At that moment, Sohanin was also holding the dragon heart. Only the golden dragon can touch the sword without being harmed. The guard's pronouncements echoed in his mind, causing him to widen his eyes in astonishment at the scene before him. Sohanin looked at Estio from an angle, gasping in surprise, because he bore an uncanny resemblance to Duar. The face of the woman he yearned for day and night seemed to appear right before his eyes. A daring thought suddenly flashed through his mind, leading him to exclaim, could it be? He's our child? After retrieving the dragon heart, Estio fell into a deep coma.